Good time, yeah. Ain't we lucky we got 'em? Hey, YouTube. We're getting ready to crack a like in just a few moments. Let me press mute on this microphone and we rock and roll. Hey, YouTube.
And here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
your mission.
Suppose we go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream,
To be given the right of human beings to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities. By any means necessary.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You've certainly come to the right place.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Wednesday, November 11th, 2015. This is Veterans Day. And on the 11th day of the 11th month in the 11th hour, World War II came to an end. And that's why we celebrate Veterans Day on today. So a lot of respect and admiration for everyone who has served our country, everyone who has made sacrifices, being away from their family, being away from the rest of civilization and going off to war. I will have the debate over what wars were justified and just wars versus wars of imperialistic expansion, but not today. Let's have that chat. Let's have that debate another day. But just want to say thanks to everyone who has served. Some of my family has served. I'm sure some of your family has served. And, let's leave it there. Moving on. Grateful for everyone who has served. Let's just leave it there. Yeah, I was reading, man. I kind of got caught up in my reading tonight. I picked up and I found a book. Trying to see if I have the book nearby. It doesn't look like I have it nearby. It's across the room. I need the force right now to be able to just drag it right over here. But I was reading, got caught up in a book of great political philosophers, and I kind of just got whisked away into some of the deep debates and thoughts of people like particularly Rousseau, Immanuel Kant, Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, a lot of the thinkers from the Enlightenment, some of the intellectual precursors to our American Constitution, just some great thinkers. And you know what it made me realize? It made me realize that sometimes I get tired of talking about the news, to be honest with you, because the news our news cycle is so frivolous. It's so, and actually pulling up comments from yesterday, I think I'll go over some comments. But Dixon Francois, he actually started off really poignantly. He said, what's the point of even taking the Republican Party seriously? Why even discuss them? And you think about it like that. It's like, we talk about it incessantly because it's the thing. Because it's important, we do have to talk about it. But every now and then you just get to the point where it's like, this is stupid. If people don't realize that the Republicans are straight out lying to them and playing on their ignorance, as you can hear airplane going over my head. I opened the door because it's a nice, cool night. But anyway, if people don't realize for themselves, it's like, what? I was going to do a show tonight about how many lies were told last night at the Republican GOP debate, but we know how many lies they told. Every opportunity they got to say a message was riddled with lies. And then to the point where we're just preaching to the choir because we know these things. And those of you who listen to me on a regular basis, you know these things. And so it becomes kind of redundant. It becomes routine, unfortunately, to have to give commentary on all the news. There's some new news coming out of Missouri with the threats that took place last night. And that is significant news. They've arrested two 19-year-olds who were responsible for posting the threats on Yik Yak, the social media platform, threatening to kill, basically to purge and kill all Black people on campus. And that started a night of paranoia, if nothing else. At a minimum, we can call it a night of paranoia. All last night. So in between reading about and listening to the debate, we started seeing tweets of students who were afraid for their life. And I call it a night of paranoia because when threats are made like that in a contained environment, like a campus, people should be nervous and apprehensive, and if they're paranoid, they have just cause to be paranoid. So I don't say night of paranoia to be dismissive of their fears. Just want you to understand that's kind of what it was. And some things were very valid. When somebody makes a threat like that, yes, it should be taken seriously. And then, but when people make threats like that, it makes you look at everything that's happening. And some of the things that were reported were not actually true, but the threat on social media was very real, and the two gentlemen have been arrested because of it. So, that's happening over in Missouri, and so they're protesting, they're gathering, they're rallying, and kudos to them to do what's best for them. Other things in the news is just kind of redundant. It's not redundant, but repetitive. Well, I guess redundant is a decent word too. But it kind of gets old to have to talk about Donald Trump being as ridiculous as he is. So tonight, I'm just going to talk about whatever. I'm going to go over some comments because I know a lot of times I don't get to address comments. You guys leave some really penetrating questions in our comment section. So I do want to recap some of the questions. You can join the conversation, 857-600-0518. If you're listening after the fact, feel free to call the number and leave a message, and I can play your voicemail on the air, or I can just read the transcript from your voicemail. Either way it goes, I want you to be a part of the conversation. That number again is 857-600-0518. So I want to start back with the conversation last night about the Democratic, why it is that we're even having to fight with conservatism when it's as ridiculous as it is, when it's as absurd as it is. Kevin Moses left in the comment section. He said he felt that my political analysis of why conservatives managed to still win elections missed one crucial point: apathy. He mentioned that I talked about a couple times about conservatives managing to appeal to half of the country and can't fathom why that is. But the thing is, they don't appeal to half the country. They appeal to 20 or 30% of the country. And when 60% is unheard of as a voter turnout, then that's enough to win elections. So essentially, Kevin's argument is that we're dealing with not only ignorance, but apathy. And we're not talking about even just above 50%, right? 60% of the American population that is voting age actually goes out and votes. And so conservatives are appealing to just about half of those that go out and vote. And so you're dealing with apathy. Well, this is valid. This is a valid analysis. But the problem is, I don't know how many more people in that missing 40% would actually be able, how many of them could we appeal to with logic and reason and sound arguments and actual truth and actual information? Or how many of them will fall into the same category as those who are easily deceived by half-truths, propaganda, and lies? I don't know. It could be that there's a 40% of the country who is just above the fray, right? And so then Aries 73 followed up and said in the comment section that he wanted to go one better and attribute this to petulance among a section of progressives. The reality is that we have people who ostensibly believe in progressive values, but absolutely refuse to vote because they operate on the messed up belief that if there is no difference between the major parties and or they are too pure to sully their hands with being involved with politics, so-called activists seem more interested in yelling at the wind and writing hit pieces about the Democrats because they aren't 100% in lockstep with the progressive union unicorn brigade. I dare to say that there is a nihilistic section of MO Progs who simply seek to see America burn. Okay, Aries, that was actually kind of good. I appreciate that comment. Those people in particular drive me batshit crazy. Hope the kids are asleep. They drive me crazy because the reality of it is that if everyone who was absolutely progressive went out and voted, then we could push America at a minimum back to the center. Because America has drifted to the right every election cycle. We go further and further to the right, where now this is the paradigm, which is very frightening. The paradigm, I would say pre-President Obama, was that that anything to the left was bad and socialistic and communist, right? Now the paradigm has gotten one step crazier. Anything that doesn't align perfectly with conservatism is considered to be untrue. They are redefining truth to mean whatever falls in line with the conservative ideology. So now we've gone one step beyond insanity. We've gone beyond the nation, the center of the American discord. What's the name of that window? There's well, that's the acceptable political discourse. So that's not what I want. But the American consensus, popular opinion, what's electable. Yeah, what's electable? That's the phrase I want. What is electable has shifted further and further and further to the right, so that now we get politicians like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and even Barack Obama, who ultimately are merely moderate. That has been the political analysis of the last 30 years or so. This new election cycle is kind of different because now we're just straight up redefining what the truth is, right? And as soon as I get a chance, I have to take a break so I can close this door because I have a big airplane going over right now. You guys probably can't hear it, but it's besides the point. We're no longer dealing just with the political spectrum moving further and further, or the political pendulum moving further and further to the right. We're dealing with a complete redefinition of what reality is and what truth is. The truth is no longer an objective thing. The truth is whatever aligns with conservatism, and anything other than that is a complete lie, according to what is being allowed across the media airwaves. I mean, that's the one thing. It's not so much that they lied so much last night, all night. It's the fact that those lies essentially went unchallenged. And even when a reporter tried to do a follow-up question, it was not enough to call them on their lies. And so now you have an entire, I can't say a generation, but you have an entire group of voters who no longer can, or if they ever could, distinguish between what is factual and what is a straight out lie. That's the only chilling thing. That's the most chilling thing. And I think that's very depressing, man. That's depressing enough for me to be like, you know what? I just want to get in my book and just go read the good, the great political philosophers and just think about the good times, because we're getting into the stupid age. But back to what Aries said, and I got way off on a tangent, but that's okay. I brought myself back. What Aries said is that there's this group of political progressives who won't vote for anything except for a pure progressive. And what happens is, by them opting out of this voting process, you have allowed the political spectrum pendulum to move further and further to the right, when in actuality, if they had just participated, we could have swung that pendulum at least back to the center. Now, I am not so progressive that I want to see America burn, right? I'm not so progressive that I want to see a full-fledged communist, socialist, a true socialist, not a Republican propaganda socialist, this watered down socialism. We're not talking about that, where anything other than neoliberal capitalism is socialism. No, I'm talking about a real command economy. I'm talking about an authoritarian regime. I'm not that progressive, but you do have those progressives. If you are anything short of willing to bring in a command economy, they're not going to participate. And so they sit idly by and watch us move further and further to the right, I guess because that gives them something that they can criticize, right? They get to write hit pieces. They get to write intellectual thought pieces about how repugnant capitalism in America has become. And they have done nothing to move us further back to the center. So I have to agree with Aries 100% on that. Some of that 40% that's not participatory, they are definitely they're definitely part of the problem. All right. Quantum Samurai on YouTube says Democrats don't know who they are. They don't have any teeth, and Democrat voters will keep acquiescing to the lesser evil. Yeah. I think, though, I agree with you, but I think that if progressives took charge of the party that's ostensibly progressive, then people would no longer have to choose between the lesser of two evils. They could actually have a party that, because answer me this, can the Republican Party become any more conservative? I would argue no, except for the one exception that that Rand Paul outlined, where they would give up their military liberalism, financially speaking. But other than that, no, conservatives cannot get any more conservatives. The Republican Party, rather, cannot get any more conservative. But the Democratic Party, by leaps and bounds, can become more progressive. But because the progressives in the party have not been able to grab and hold and maintain power in the party, we've essentially seen the Democratic Party become just left of center, if left at all. And so I have to agree with you, Quantum Samurai. They don't know who they are. Jonathan said, I can't stand a purity troll, all hurt and sensitive about Bernie Sanders not having a perfect record on guns. They want someone who will be an echo chamber for every single issue. And that's exactly what Aries was talking about. It cannot be all or none. Right. The only way it can be all or none in America is if you have a totalitarian society. And that's something that I kind of drifted into last night and I didn't really deal with. It's when the reality is both conservatives and progressives can become authoritarian and totalitarian. Totalitarian in the sense where we're forcing everyone to abide by the same ideology, and authoritarianism basically using force to control that. And of course, there are precise political and philosophical definitions of those words, but I'm just giving you the watered down version of it, right? Totalitarian and a totalitarian society, homogenous in their thinking and their ways, homogenous in their political, in what's acceptable. And then authoritarian basically essentially means that you're using the force of government to control and suppress other thoughts. We believe that it's only conservatives that are authoritarian. Conservatives believe that it's only progressives who can be authoritarian. The reality of it is that both extremes can be totalitarian and authoritarian, oppressive dictators. And these purists on both sides of the political, both ends of the political spectrum, they have the ability to become dictators. Give you a case in point, that professor at University of Missouri, somebody corrected me last night because I was talking about both schools, but I didn't make it clear. So thank you for that correction. It was the professor at the University of Missouri who, in, I guess, the heat of the moment of trying to create this safe space, essentially went looking for muscle, quote unquote muscle, so that they can push out push out the media. This was a perfect display of liberalism that can become authoritarian. Now, I think it's because of her ignorance. I don't care how many degrees she has behind her. That was a moment of pure political naivete and media naivete and ignorance, right? But the truth was revealed. In her was this propensity to oppress the First Amendment rights for the media. All that to say is that these purists who would choose to opt out of the system, a lot of times they are just as dangerous as the purists on the other side. So maybe it's in our best interest that they are not fully fledged and engaged in the system. But right about now, where America is so far to the right, we can use all hands on deck. You know, we need everybody involved to push America back to the left where we will come into center. And then we can progress. All right, let me grab a couple of more comments here. You guys can join the conversation. I'm not talking about any of the news. I'm just covering whatever comes to my mind, whatever great comments you guys left. I'll discuss that. 857-600-0518. I'll read this comment from Nathan. Nathan said, on yesterday, he said the problem with the Yale students is that they expect the administration to turn the college dorms into a hermetically sealed bubble of free of offensive opinions. If it were just about racist hate speech and vulgar costumes, I would be more sympathetic. But I know people like this, and there's pretty much no pleasing them. The complex and often ambiguous set of social rules that they expect people to adhere to are impossible for a college administration. Come on, YouTube, give me the rest of the comment. Really, YouTube? You're not going to give me the rest of these comments? Because this is a great comment. Hang on, let's see if I can pull this up. Okay, I can't pull it up, so let me stop it there. There's a complex and often ambiguous set of social rules they expect people to adhere to, and it is impossible for the college administration to enforce that. Nathan, yes, I have to agree with you 100%. This is what I was tweeting about yesterday, and this is what I was discussing on the show yesterday. This idea of a safe space. Let me go one step further than I did yesterday. I don't need anyone fighting for me who requires a safe space in the middle of a fight. You know, I love all the energy and the brilliance of what's going on at the University of Missouri. I love it and support it 95%. I've supported 95 to 99%. The part of me that doesn't support it is this idea that they require and are entitled to a safe space in the middle of your protest. Here's the philosophical dissent with that. You are protesting, which means you are intruding on someone else's quiet space, if nothing else, right? Someone else's space where this type of protest doesn't normally occur. You are disrupting them. By definition, that's what protest is. It is disruptive. So how do you go to a protest to disrupt something and then expect not to in turn be disrupted? You can't go to a fight and not expect people to fight back. It doesn't work like that. None of it works like that. And we don't need people who require security for them to be able to protest successfully, because the real world is not like that. The real world is not like Twitter in that you can block trolls. The real world is that there will be a fierce competition of ideas in the public square to the point where you're going to have to raise your voice. You're going to have to outnumber them. You're going to have better ideas. You're going to have be more fierce. You're going to have to be more determined. You're going to have to endure more. You're going to have to endure more. That's why we don't need people who require a safe space. I understand you. Listen, there is a difference between having a safe space in your home and a safe space in your dorm and a safe space in your classroom so that you can get an education, in your home so that you can get rest, in your dorm so that you can go back and have a semblance of what home was like. Those places you are entitled to a safe space. When you go to work, that should be a safe space. But when you go out to protest and to fight against the machine, you are not entitled to a safe space. It doesn't work like that. You're going out into the public square to fight against whatever it is you're fighting against. In this case, systemic oppression, white supremacy, all of the above, racial profiling, respectability politics. You're going to protest all of those things. But your protesting is by definition disruptive in the public square. You cannot turn around and then request and demand and try to force that you are not interrupted while you are interrupting. It does not work like that. Now, I wanted to tweet about this, but it would require too many tweets to actually put it into proper context. And you got to be smarter, right? So take everything I'm getting ready to say in context. It is absolutely like The Walking Dead. I'm very serious here. In this season of The Walking Dead, they are confronting the reality of people who have been behind the walls during the entire apocalypse. While hell is breaking loose all around the world, you have a group of people who have been protected behind these walls. And because they have had this safe space all of this time, they are completely incompetent and incapable of going out into the real world and facing the challenges that are intrinsic, that are a part of reality. And so you have those who have been tested, those who have been fighting, those who have suffered loss, those who have been abused, those who have been hurt, those who have lost friends. Every type of pain that you can imagine, they have come into this community of people behind a safe space, and they realize these people who have been in this safe space will get us killed because they're not capable of defending and protecting themselves. I'm sorry, I do not need protesters who require a safe space. What we need are protesters who say, bring anything you've got to the table. If you want to troll, let's go. I'm going to be a better troll than you. You want to go toe to toe? I will go further. If you want to shout, I will shout louder. If you want to reason and debate, we can reason and debate. You want to bring an alternate idea and a conflicting opinion, I will bring mine, and may the best man win. I'm sorry. Everyone who's caping for these kids at Missouri to have a safe space, you are doing them a disservice. It is exactly like people who try to defend Bernie Sanders from Black Lives Matter. Don't defend Bernie from Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter made Bernie stronger. Exactly like the people who try to defend Hillary Clinton from Black Lives Matter. Everyone's caping for Hillary Clinton. Oh, let's not interrupt her. No. Interrupt her, because one, it's a valid argument, it's a valid movement, and two, it's going to make Hillary Clinton stronger. So you cannot philosophically and pragmatically, it just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And to see everyone scurrying, trying to defend the people who demanded a safe space, take a minute and realize you don't have to agree with 100% of what somebody does to still support them. I absolutely support those kids. If I wasn't burdened down with this capitalistic pursuit and the requirements of taking care of my wife and my kids, I would be at every single protest. If I just had money and didn't have any responsibilities, I would be at every single protest because I support them. But that doesn't mean I have to agree with them 100% of the time. So stop finagling your way around this one. They are not entitled to a safe space when they are being disruptive. They are entitled to a safe space in their home, in their dorm, in their classroom, on their job, as they walk, as they come, as they go. All of that should be a safe space. But when you are protesting, all bets are off. May the best man win. That's all I've got on that. Actually, no, it's not. A little bit more. Back to what someone was saying in the comments section here, in terms of in terms of them wanting a hermetically sealed bubble free of offensive opinions. You know, the only other thing I would say is I want to tie this back to what someone said in the comment section earlier, in the chat room earlier. Yesterday, it wasn't today. Somebody said this in the chat room earlier, that sometimes people we agree with, they have the propensity and the ability to be fascist and authoritarian. And the only way that you can get away with creating a safe space is if you suppress other ideas and other voices. And that's one of the things we're fighting against. We're fighting against our voices being suppressed and ignored and oppressed. And so we can't fight that fire with fire. We can't become the monster that we're trying to destroy. And we have to be careful. Just because we have the moral high ground, just because we have the better ideas, just because we are right, doesn't mean we have the right to do it the wrong way. Okay, I feel a little bit better now. We're going to take a break. When I come back, I want you to call in. Yes, you. 857-600-0518. Just call in and say what's up. And then we'll have a conversation. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. We'll be back. Let me go close this door. Tap this. What's going on, everyone? This is Benjamin Dixon, and I wanted to take a minute to tell you how you can support the Benjamin Dixon Show. One thing I've learned over the last few months is that it is impossible for us to do this without you. Every time you click on a link, every time you read an article, every time you share a podcast or share a YouTube video, you are absolutely supporting our show. And without you, it's simply impossible. But there's another way you can support us. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com and register for our blog. You will be directly contributing to the success of the Benjamin Dixon Show by registering for our blog. You will help us increase our audience and increase our reach. Remember, every click counts, every subscribe counts, and every share counts. So go over to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com, click on the Contact Us tab, and register for our blog today. There is a radical, violent revolution taking place in America right now, figuratively speaking, where we are ripping from the status quo the very notion that they have the right to define the status quo. We are ripping it from them. We are telling them that they no longer get to decide what America is going to look like. And that is terrifying for a lot of people. That is downright terrifying when someone comes into your home only to help you to understand that your home is not yours in isolation, that we share this home equally, and that we have the right to be comfortable in this home, just as much right as you have to be comfortable, so that a white Christian straight man, the comfort that he feels in America will be experienced by the gay Black woman and every other intersection that has been erased. That, my friends, that is a revolution if I have ever seen one. That is something, that is the next stage of evolution in America.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Ben Dixon. He's obviously he's a radio show host or something like that.
You're damn right I am. All right. All right. Okay, you guys, that's why I like hanging out with you guys. You guys have some great comments in this chat section. I want to scroll all the way back up, and I want to discuss Patrick Blanc. Is it Blanc or Blank? Forgive me. Just when you call in next time, let me know. Patrick said, he said two parts, actually. Ben, I think you're missing a huge point. The Democratic Party has correctly concluded that the progressive wing of the party will not organize and mobilize against centrist Democrats. And then he said, this is why you have progressive politicians like Sherrod Brown and Bill de Blasio having no problem endorsing a clearly establishment candidate. They know that they will not be primaried for it. Actually, you make a great point there. But I think the solution to the problem that you've outlined is really, no, actually, I think you've got a rock solid point there. And I don't know if there is a solution for that, because it speaks to the apathy of progressives, of true progressives, the willingness to engage in the party system. That's the key thing. And actually, I think I'm guilty of it myself. I engaged in the Democratic Party system enough to realize that I don't want to be involved in the party system. Not because it wasn't pure enough, but because it was not effective in the way that I needed it to be effective in my life, right? I needed to speak truth to power, and it was more about politicking. And I wonder how many progressives fall into that, where we want to not shout at the wind, but we want to shout real solutions to problems, but we don't have patience enough to work our way up in the political system and then in the political party system. And then you have people who have no moral center in terms of a political philosophy or ideology, who have nothing but a Ivy League pedigree, and they worked for whatever, they have a good pedigree, and they sit inside of a party system until they're running it. And so you have people who have the patience to wait out that political process, and you have those of us who are a lot more passionate, and we just don't have the patience to sit through that system. So unfortunately, I guess I am exactly that same type of person, right? That I'm not going to sit patiently inside of a political system, of a political party, and shake the right hands to obtain political power. Until that paradigm changes, then we probably will continue to see real progressives being academics and being speakers and being authors and journalists, while moderates who have no political, whatever, they're like politically blah, sitting inside of the party and running the party. So that's an entirely different framework, Patrick. I have to think about that and see if there are some real solutions to that. I want to read another comment. Jonathan said, exactly. Safe space is just another way to silence dissent. The whole point of a public space is, and especially at a university, is having an open dialogue. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. It's not going to always be a dialogue. Sometimes it's going to be a straight out argument. Sometimes it's going to be it may lead to almost fisticuffs, right? It might lead to a confrontation, a fight. It might require the police to get out there and separate it. But that's the public square, right? The public square is ugly, and it should be ugly, because if we make it pretty, if we sanitize it, that means we've shut some people up. And that means that if you're progressive, we become exactly what we think with what we've been opposing. There's another comment down here that was that really stimulated some ideas. No time for nuance ever. You're right, Omni Mortar. I agree with that. Davin had a point. He's saying something here that I want to unpack. Davin said, suppression is sometimes needed. You wouldn't want the KKK to have a larger platform. And Omnimorta, yeah, feel free. I'll talk about religion and politics. 857-600-0518, whatever you want to talk about. Like I said, I'm going to follow whatever you guys say tonight. But back to Davin's point, I don't want them to have a bigger platform, but I don't think that they're capable of having a bigger platform, because our ideas are better. Our morality is better. Our values, they're better. It's just, we appeal to people more. They can't win. They are going to run out of ignorant, racist assholes. They're going to run out of them. In terms of having a majority, there'll always be some ignorant, racist butthole left, right? But in terms of them being in the majority, they're running out already. So I don't have any fear. That's why we don't need to suppress, because if our ideas are better and we communicate them better, we tell the story better, we are more passionate about it, we are going to win. That's why I have absolutely no need to block anybody on Twitter. I have no need to block anyone in the public square. I actually want it. I want people to call my show to disagree with me, because one or two things is going to happen. One, I'm either going to destroy them, or two, they're going to get me back on my toes and make me up my game for the next call. So it does not, it will, there's nothing a confrontation can do to destroy you if you actually utilize that opportunity to make yourself better. That's why I absolutely fundamentally disagree with safe spaces. Bring the Klan on. Bring them on, because we're better than them, and we're smarter than them, and we're more effective than them, and we're going to convince more people than them. Let me read one more question here. After the internet came along, the flat earthers got a larger platform, and the result is a dumber America. You know, I don't think the result is a dumber America. I think the dumb people just united and found each other, right? You know, I think these people have been idiots all along, and then they were able to connect with other idiots. You know, I believe you really only have two type of people in the world. You have skeptics and you have blind faithers. And blind faith goes across the board, right? Blind faith is not just about religion. Blind faith is could be an atheist who doesn't know anything about the arguments for atheism, right? They haven't gone through the logic for atheism, and they have not rejected faith because of logic. They've rejected faith because they just trusted somebody else and took somebody else's opinion. You all know people like that. I think you should all know people like that, because I've run into a lot of them. So it's not about religion. When I say blind faith, it's simply about people who are skeptical, who are skeptics rather, and then people who just believe whatever they're told as a statement of faith, as a tenet of faith. Those people have always been here. They will always be here. Those people, you know, there's not much we can do about that except to try to stimulate that who, what, when, where, how, and why, that inquisitiveness, that desire to know more about what they believe. I am a skeptic. I'm a Christian, but I'm a skeptic. That's why it's impossible for me to be conform to the expected behavior of a Christian or belief, ideology of a Christian, you know, because I question everything. I question my questioning. I question everything. And that's really the bottom line, is whether or not they are going to question what they're being told. So back to the internet giving voice and connecting ignorant people. Those ignorant people were there all along, and they're ignorant, not in a pejorative sense. They're ignorant in the sense of they don't want to know more. They don't know. They're uninformed, and they don't want to be informed. They just want to accept it as a tenet of faith. So just like the internet made the young earthers, you know, they got connected and they got a larger platform, you know, skeptical people around the world got connected. Hell, we got connected, right? And we're all different. I think we have Christians, we have atheists, I have gays, I have some transgender people. We have everything. We have you know, black, white, everything's here, and we're here because of the internet. If not for the internet, we wouldn't be here. So I still think we'll win. We'll win. Caller, you are live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, it's Pedro / Oni Mortar. How you doing?
Doing great, man. How's it going? What's on your mind?
All right. I was going to call with a sort of specific agenda about a certain organization, but as I listened to you and as I hesitated to call, I decided to switch on something else. Okay, so I've been reading your book on and off because I'm just a bad reader, and it's really great so far. God is not a Republican. Go pick it up, whoever's listening. But you mentioned very early on that the Republican Party sought to marry themselves with conservative Christians, and that's almost certainly the power base still to this day of like the Republicans and like the right, the conservatives, and all that. Now, the thing that I'm worried about is, as you know, as we keep going along this, as the Republicans keep gaining momentum, it's continually Christian based, but obviously on some sort of weird fanatic level. Like, I'm not sure if you saw that Freedom Organization with Kevin Swanson, and he invited like Ted Cruz and Bobby Jindal, and I think Mike Huckabee.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so, and he was saying stuff like, we have to stone the gays and all that, and these people, like these presidential candidates, did not, disavow it. They knew what kind of stuff they were getting into.
Yeah.
So what I'm worried about is this. Obviously, not everyone who doesn't vote conservative or doesn't vote Republican is not Christian. Like, there's a lot of Christians that vote opposite from Republican.
Right.
But it seems to be getting to a point where it's going to be, where it's going to be the right saying you have to believe this certain way in order to run the country or be part of the country, versus Democrats saying, no, you don't have to believe. Not that you shouldn't believe, but that it's not a necessity. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we're going to get to this head where like religion or Christianity, like really conservative Christianity, is going to be the center of some sort of culture war, not like a violent war.
Yeah.
But I don't see a compromise here, and I want to know that from you, since I haven't read your whole book yet, and I'm sorry. But where do you think we're going to settle on this issue?
Actually, you bring up a good point. We're actually there already, right? Ted Cruz yesterday or the day before this week, Ted Cruz was discussing the fact that the president has to be a person of faith, right? Essentially saying that they can't be an atheist, right? And so we're already to that point where if you want to be successful in the Republican Party, you have to tout the exact conservative ideology, including Christianity, including the specific iteration of Christianity that they're comfortable with. Because mind you, I'm considered a heretic, right? As much as I, raise my kids according to, my faith, I'm considered to be a heretic to conservative Christians because I don't carry their generally accepted Christian values, right? So it's already there. And the problem is for them. I don't think the problem is for us. The problem for them is that they're not going to be able to maintain a majority over and over and over again unless progressives just continue to twiddle our thumb and allow them to win these debates. And I'm not talking about the actual debates on TV. I'm talking about the culture war that you're discussing and the general conversation that we're having nationwide. Now, here's something, I'm going to be honest with you. Here's something that progressives and Democrats can do that would absolutely undermine this religious marriage between the Republican Party and conservative Christians. And this is a tall order. This is a tall order. So hear me out.
Okay.
If the non-believers, if the atheists, if the agnostics, the free thinkers in progressive circles could, and I'm thinking about it as I say it, if they could shed this idea, hang on, let me say this, there is an assumption. If they could get rid of the assumption that happens in other people's minds, right? I don't think this is necessarily true, but Christians generally believe that they cannot be accepted by atheists and agnostics, that they are our natural enemy, right? And that's not true. I know that's not true because some of my best friends are atheists. Some of my family, it's not necessarily true, but there's this reputation that atheists have that they can't coexist with Christians. If the Democratic Party in particular, and I'm not laying this at the feet of the atheists, but in the Democratic progressive parties could absolutely make it known that every faith is welcome and no faith is welcome. If they can clearly articulate that to the point where we have no problem with people who come to our conferences and want to pray, just don't force everybody else to pray. We have no problem if you come to our conferences and you want to worship Satan, just don't try to force everyone else to worship Satan. If they could clearly articulate that, and make sure people understood that they are all welcomed, then we can start pulling those intelligent Christians away from the Republican Party, because that is what is necessary. We have to pull the people who are actually thinkers. And like I said before you called in, it doesn't matter whether they're atheists, whether they're agnostic, whether they're Buddhist, whether they're Muslim, whether they're Christian. It doesn't matter what religion they are. What matters is, are they a thinker, or are they just going to accept anything somebody says to them? If they are a thinker, then there's room for them over here with the rest of us, like you, me. We disagree on faith, but we think about everything else. And because we're thinkers, we agree on so much more. That is the anecdote, not an anecdote, but that's the antidote for the poison that the Republican Party is putting in merging it through this marriage. That's how we kill that bastard child that's being born from republicanism and extreme right, the religious right.
All right. I see what you're saying. I'm going to leave on this note because it's really hard to hear you on the phone. You should try working on a volume mix on that. But I'm going to have to say I disagree.
You're trying to tell me,
of course, please report after I hang up. But I feel like I'm going to have to disagree on that because it's pretty obvious. It's been even currently through the Republican debates and whatnot that if you don't, that as you're saying, if you don't kowtow to that specific extreme right version of Christianity, then you're being politically correct. You're being overly secular. You're being like you're surrendering to the wrong side. That's how the Republican narrative is placed. And there's obviously a lot of people, including Trump. In fact, probably Trump got the most power by being non-politically correct. He got the most influence and momentum from doing that. So, like there's people saying, oh, like freaking Josh Fierstein saying, oh, I had them write Merry Christmas on my cup because I'm not being politically correct, when it has nothing to do with that or being Christian. But it's just it gets to the point where they say, if you're not this hardline Christianity, then you are being politically correct, and that's a bad thing. That's how they seem to form this narrative. So I think that, and I'd love it if everyone was all inclusive, but I feel like that will not stop. And in fact, I think it would fuel the momentum of the right to think that, oh, they want us to think a certain way. They want us to include everyone. Obviously, we don't want same-sex marriage couples. We don't want immigrants. We don't want women with sexual reproductive freedom, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So unfortunately, I don't really see that point in what you were saying, man. But keep up the good work. I'm going to hang up and listen online.
Pedro, man. All right, thanks for the call, Pedro. I'm going to talk about you as soon as I hang up. Pedro said I was wrong, and I need to fix my microphone, man. What the hell, Pedro? But okay, that's cool. I got you. I'm waiting for the sound effect to come in. But no, actually, I think I just worked on, I didn't know you guys couldn't hear me well. So the next caller, you let me know if I fixed it. It should be fixed for you guys listening on the phone call. Thanks, Patrick, for confirming that it's bad, that you couldn't hear me. Now, here's where I'm right. I'm right in that I think your question to me and your response to me is completely separate from what I was saying. You're saying that they're still going to be able to appeal to the idiocy. They're still going to be able to appeal to the fear, to their ability to label anything that does not conform to their specific iteration of Christianity as politically correct. They will always be able to do that. You're correct. But they won't be able to always do that with people who are thinking for themselves. Every single one of us, I want you to go through all the people who that are, hang on one second, who are conservative and maybe Christian. Out of all of them that you have to know some that are thinkers for themselves. I believe that we can capture those who are thinkers and bring them over to progressivism, not just because I think progressivism is right, but because we have to undo what conservatism is doing with this marriage to religion. We have to undo it. Now, me personally, I want to undo it because I think what they're doing is a detriment to Christianity. I think it's a detriment to America. I think it's a detriment to minorities. I think it's a detriment to everyone across the board. But I also think it's a detriment, like I said, to the faith. I think they're undermining our faith. right? So I think for every reason, we need to go and capture as many people who are thinkers. This is what we do. We need to purge the Republican Party of everyone who is a reasonable thinker and leave them with those people who are not trying to think and just want to be spoon-fed what they believe. Caller, what is your name, comment, and our question?
This is John from Louisiana, man. What's up?
John, how are you, man? Can you hear me better? I try to fix my mic a little bit.
No, it's actually pretty horrible.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll fix it off air tonight and see what we can do. But what's on your mind?
The money in politics. You mentioned earlier about not being a progressive, that you really don't like the two-party system. And you know, I think that's the crux of it right there. If we could, what do you think? If we could just really just eliminate that, not just Citizens United decision. You go all the way back to what those decisions in the mid to late 70s and everything, and first those and just have publicly funded elections. Do you think we can break this hold or how the system preserves itself?
Okay, yeah, let me answer that for you. And since my mic really sucks, I'm gonna answer that off the air for you, so that you can hear it really clearly. Yes, here's the weird thing about it, guys. In a strange way, the Republican Party may be doing this nation a favor. Donald Trump may be doing the nation a favor. And let me explain my reasoning for that. The more ridiculous the Republican Party becomes, the more feasible it is for people who are rational, reasonable conservatives to opt out of the Republican Party. Now, here are two possibilities to directly address what you're asking, John. If enough of them opt out, that would split the Republican Party. I think that is a absolutely possibility, considering how extreme and how ridiculous they are becoming, particularly with Donald Trump and Ben Carson. If Donald Trump or Ben Carson got the nomination, to me, that would represent the end of the Republican Party, because reasonable, rational conservatives, and they do exist, could not possibly participate and vote for that person. Now, two possibilities: either they leave the party and just opt out and don't vote this election cycle, or they run a third party candidate, which will split it. But the only way we're going to fix the two-party system is if there's a sufficient enough split in one of the parties. It's either going to have to be the reasonable conservatives who are thinkers and just won't tolerate the idiocy, or it's going to have to be progressives who say we're not going to be a part of a party that is completely like the Republican Party. Somebody's got to split away. They also have to have enough money to split away. And so long as money is in politics, that makes it almost impossible for one of those splinter cells to actually win. Splinter cell is probably not the word I was looking for, but splinter party to win. That's the combination. Other than that, it would require us fundamentally going to almost a parliamentarian system where we have where it's a simple majority that's required instead of an absolute majority. There's fundamental structure. There's a fundamental structural. Let me slow down. There's a structural problem in the way our system is designed, which tends towards a two-party system. We're not going to change that structure. So that's not really a solution. The real solution is, if we got money out of politics, then the playing field would be sufficient that a third party break away from either Republicans or break away from Democrats could actually have a chance to win. And in that regard, I think the more ridiculous the Republicans become, the more possible that idea is. Pedro asks, how do you think we'll compromise before we come to clash of faith? Hang on. Okay, John, let me ask. Boom, 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 boom. Yes, I do play. I used to play Splinter Cell. Favorite game is Halo. Somebody asked me what my favorite books are. I'm really a square with my books. I like academic books. And the one I was reading tonight, this is actually an old book. This is an undergraduate level book, and I freaking love this book. Great political thinkers. It goes from Plato to the present day, and it's a great summary of some of the greatest thinkers, from Aristotle to Nietzsche to Machiavelli, Immanuel Kant, Dante, Mussolini, just a lot of great thinkers. And it gives you a nice, it's an academic, well, not graduate level academic, but it's an undergraduate academic book, and it gives you a great summary of their ideas, but then it gives you the actual text. And once you're able to read these guys, then it really does something with your brain, right? Reading the classics, the classic philosophers, and the way they wrote requires that your brain be rewired, and it becomes like, I was reading it tonight for the first time in really 3 years, and it was like reading this tonight was like picking up this little crappy book I got by Howard Schultz, picking it up and reading it. It was an easy read. When I first picked this book up like 5 years ago, it made my head hurt, and it took me this is what it took. I had I'm going to tell you guys this story, and then we're going to get out of here. All right. I'll tell you this story. I moved into this apartment that had everything on it was a townhome. So my living room, my dining, everything was on the second level and third level, right? The garage was on the first level. So I had this huge big screen TV that was, you remember those big box TVs. I could not get that book upstairs, that TV upstairs for anything. Me and my brother, me and my friends, we could not get that big ass TV upstairs. So I just said, forget about it. For 2 years, I didn't watch TV because I wasn't going to buy a new TV, and I couldn't get the big screen upstairs. And so I just started reading every book that I had in my collection. And when I started reading those great philosophers, it was so hard to read that it literally took me 2 or 3 times to read it. And then finally, like that 4th time reading it, I started to understand what they were saying. And I literally believe it just rewired my brain. Like the synapses just fired differently now. And now I pick up a book from, like, I can read Immanuel Kant and understand it the very first time. I can read some of Socrates, not Socrates, but Aristotle. Actually, no. Actually, it's Plato that I read earlier today. I can read it and understand it the first time because it rewired my head. And the only way I was able to do that was by going through these undergraduate level books and getting a summary first, and then jumping into the actual text of what they wrote in their words. And that just forced my brain to think differently and to write differently. So I would recommend that. I would recommend you guys cut off the TV and the video games for a year and just read until your head hurts. And then once it hurts, read it one more time. And then when you come back a couple years later, you'll be like me. I'm like, well, damn, why did it take me so long to read it before? All right. One other question. I'm answering a couple more questions. We'll get out of here. Thanks. I think I caught it, but Pedro, I think I caught the other half of your question, but if I didn't, I will go back and listen. Brandon, help me out. John, I believe Quantum Samurai, I think your actual name is John. You said Saints need to cut Brandon Browner. He is killing us. I don't know. Oh, the Saints. Man, I'm tripping. When you this is a different world. This is the different world I operate in. When you say the Saints, I'm thinking you're talking about church folks. You're talking about the Saints, the New Orleans Saints. Yes, they need to cut him. Like, what church person do I know named Brandon Browner? And I had to look and realize what you're talking about. All right, folks. Actually, I'm enjoying this. So let me answer a couple more questions, and then we'll get out of here. And again, I'll take one more call. 857-600-0518. Splinter Cell is dope as hell. He has all of them. Davin, yes, it is very dope. There was something else you said up here, Davin, that I want to get to. If I miss it, Omnimortar. All right. I don't have anything against Christians, mind you. I'm saying that Republicans who push the hardline Christian narrative will put that faith on the forefront of this culture war. Miss Gracie says, I have a Christian friend who is starting to do this. I recommended your show. The progressive Christians are being drowned out by the extreme. I can't agree with you guys more. Jonathan, I appreciate that. He said, hey, yeah, Humanist Report. Hey, man, everybody go over to his channel and subscribe. He's in the room watching tonight. Definitely enjoy his show. Good dude. Follow him on Twitter. But back to what Miss Gracie said and what Omni Mortar said. What you guys are saying is true. I just think it's been happening a lot longer. It's really nothing new. It really began. It began with the Snopes trial in the 1920s. But we were so progressive then that we rejected the idiocy that came out of extreme religion. And I'm thinking I'm saying it right. It was either Snopes trial or Scopes. It was a Scopes trial, SCOPES. If you look that up, you will see that some of the more eccentric portions of religion became publicized because of this trial. And politically, because of this trial, a lot of religion was pushed into the background because it was repugnant to the mass population. So that was kind of like the first introduction to the clash of culture in the 20th century, at least. And then you had in the 1970s, the onset of the Republican right, the evangelical right, merging with the Republican Party. And this has been a tactic since then. I mean, they've been playing this card for a long time. Hardline Christian narrative will put faith on the forefront of this culture, where it has been on the forefront. And now it's gotten to the point where Republicans are openly saying that if you're not a Christian, you should not be in office, which is completely antithetical to the Constitution. So they're betraying the Constitution for the sake of their religion. And it's playing to this really simplistic fear and simplistic faith in Christians who don't take the time to question their faith. It's kind of easy, it's easy to agree with, yes, I think the president should be a Christian, because if you're a Christian. But if you take 10 minutes to think about the fact that if we require the president to be Christian, what happens when America is no longer a predominantly Christian nation? Can the population demand that the president never be a Christian? Right? Just 10 minutes to think about that. If we're able to force this because we're the dominant culture now, what happens when we're no longer the dominant culture? Then we've set the precedent that whoever is in the dominant culture gets to make an unconstitutional request. So 10 minutes of thinking about that, most Christians that I have ever interacted with will all say, you know what? You're right. They don't have to be a Christian. But if they never took the time to actually think about that, then it's so easy to be like, when somebody says the president of this nation should be a Christian, a good God-fearing Christian man. And everybody's like, oh, hallelujah. Amen. That's right, Reverend. That's right. Until you actually think about the implications of what was just said. And that's why I say we absolutely have to go over across the aisle and find the people who are thinkers and can process that simple thought about doing something because you're in the dominant culture, imposing on everyone else. What happens when you're no longer the dominant culture? Can they now enforce it on you? That one simple idea will help save. They'll be born again all over again. A lot of Christians from the idiocy that is the evangelical right. I don't know if there's a better place to end than that, folks. I actually had a lot of fun. I think some nights I don't want to talk about the news because it's not even worth our time, discussing the Republicans at this point outside of the context of what we talked about tonight. It's kind of not worth our time. So some nights, let's just do it like this, and you guys can call in anytime, leave me a message, send me, register for my blog, go to thebenjamindixonshow.com, register for the blog, read some of my articles, comment if you think I'm right, comment if you think I'm wrong. And I'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one.
And until that moment comes, when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity in which we need each other. That I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
And we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
Which we need each other.
Love is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.
And just because you guys are so cool and you asked me some really good questions, I'm going to go a little bit further. Where's my music? My music don't cue up.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you're now about to witness
the truth.
Yeah,
boy. Let's get ready to rumble.
I'm going in.
All right.
I'm going in.
I just wanted to play that. Like, I've had that clip. I've had that that track for like 6 months. And I only did one time. I'm going in where I just go on an epic rant. And I haven't used it since, but I just wanted to play it. All right, let's see. I want to, yeah, you're gonna need a translation. Yeah, I couldn't type there for a few minutes. And to people on Spreaker, I'm still letting the show go on. You know, I'm sorry it's not as interactive via Spreaker, but when you have, you know, video and you can interact with chat, here's my recommendation. If you can't get to a TV screen, to a computer screen, absolutely download the podcast. Thank you for downloading it. But if you can ever get to a live show on Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m., come hang out with us. We have a good time. Okay, somebody asked me a very, very important question. Once I finally moved out of that apartment and that townhome and got somewhere on the first floor that I could actually have a TV, and I started watching TV again after 2 years of never watching TV, and actually that wasn't even when, but eventually I started watching TV again, long story short. And there are two shows that absolutely influenced my life. Like I like shows that make you think, and it's Doctor Who and The Walking Dead. So go watch The Political Dead. I have a segment on that. I talk about the Walking Dead all the time. Doctor Who, here are my greatest influences. And I want you guys to, in no particular order, here are my greatest influences in my life. Oh, I got a little boy who I woke up. Oh, my buddy. Hang on. Let's see. I'm glad this is overtime. Okay, he's going in the room with his mother. Okay. All right, folks. That's a wrap. I'll see you guys next time. Oh, there we go. Okay, we survived. Okay. So anyway, what was the question? What was the question? I'm glad we're overtime here. Too short. Yes, Walking Dead. Let's get rid of Doctor Who. Okay, no, the biggest influences in my life, right? So I have like 4 great influences. And you could pick the order. It doesn't matter. Malcolm X, James Baldwin, Jesus Christ, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Doctor Who. Those 5 people are the biggest influences in my life, in no particular order, mix and match. Some of them are real, some of them are fictional, obviously. And I'll let you decide for yourself which ones are real and which ones are fictional. Yeah, those are and Doctor Who is really as campy as it is. It's like a really kind of a quasi kid show. They really deal with some really great ideas. And that's it. One more question. Let's get one. Yeah, I go over anyway all the time. Folks, friends don't let friends vote Republican. I agree with that 100%. 100%. At least not now. I mean, I really do long for the day where we can have a good debate between competing ideas without having demagoguery and ridiculousness. You know, it would be great to have a William F. Buckley competing and debating against, I don't know, Ta-Nehisi Coates. You know what I mean? But we have to go back. We have to go back 30 years to get a great Republican thinker. One last question, and I'm going to go over here and oh yes, Miss Gracie. Oh my God, Miss Gracie, you get an applause. Yes, Star Trek, particularly The Next Generation, is it's in a league of its own. I've seen every episode at least 4 or 5 times, all seasons. That's on a recurring play on my Netflix. I binge watch that all the time. Star Trek. What would Picard do? You know, okay. Let me give you this. And if you guys call, if you ask other questions, otherwise I'm just going to talk. I got into political science in 2009 because I asked myself the question, how do we get humanity to this idealistic place that's portrayed in Star Trek? That question right there took me out of music. I was a musician first. It took me out of music and put me dead smack into the world of political science. Because I saw this world where people were pursuing the height, the very best that they could do and become, not for the pursuit of money, but for the advancement of humanity. And to me, that is where we need to be. That's where we need to go. And so I said, well, where are we now? How do I find out where we are now? I immerse myself into the world of politics and active day-to-day politics, as well as political philosophy. And, you know, you go in idealistic and you start learning about the theory as well as the practice, and you become jaded. And in a lot of ways, I went in idealistic and I came out a realist, but I never let go of my idealism. So I think that for us to get where humanity needs to go, it's going to require some realism. It's going to require some, you know, not an iron fist in the sense of dictators, but an iron fist in the sense of I'm going to scorch the earth for a good reason. I'm not going to oppress you. I'm not going to become a dictator. I'm not going to become the monster that I want to destroy. But if I have to be the bad guy to forward human progress, then fine, right? And of course, bad guy for me is in a very, very narrow frame, right? In the sense of if I have to be the one to go out and argue every single day and fight people rhetorically every single day and stand up for what's right every single day, if I have to be the angry black man, basically, if you have to see me as an angry black man for me to help forward progress, then damn it, I'll be that guy. I'll be that guy. Even though that's not who I am. I'm not angry all the time. I would rather just chill and watch Star Trek, right? But if the only way forward is for me to become the bad guy, then fine, I'm good with it. And that's all, Miss Gracie. That's all because of watching Star Trek and asking myself the question, how do we get there from here? And that's all because of Captain Picard and then Doctor Who and everyone else. Omnimortar. Nationalism can be a scary thing, especially when coupled with the dominant religion of the area. Absolutely. That's what happened in the 50s, how under God became a part of our pledge and our motto. Absolutely. I don't think there's anything more scary than nationalism meets religion meets conservative values. Those are the core principles of fascism. And that is a terrifying notion. Period. I don't think that we could ever get to a fascist state here in America without us having like another civil war or something first. But, you know, it doesn't have to be structural fascism. It could be cultural fascism. And I think culturally we have an absurd amount of cultural fascism in America right now. And I think that's what Omnimorta is seeing and feeling. And I just think it has been here a lot longer, but it's getting to that height of absurdity. And maybe, just maybe, that absurdity can expose, can weaken them. All right. One last thing at the bottom, I think. When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carried on a cross. Sinclair Lewis. Absolutely. Absolutely right. What scares me, cost 80. I know you from somewhere. But what scares me is that someone who openly wants to replace the US government can be an elected official without even hiding the fact that they want to undermine the American government. That is absolutely the case. This entire idea of reducing the government, limiting the government, making it small enough that we can drown it in the bathtub, that is a dangerous premise that has become the very core of conservatism. So it is a scary idea, but I think they're overplaying. I think they're overplaying their hand because they have been appealing to stupid. And as much as I talk about conservatives on the show, not all of them are ignorant. Some of them are very bright, and some of them are really realizing that the people in charge of their party have lost their minds. All right. I'm going to use that. Yeah. Just quote me on it. Cultural fascism. Reminder, Huckabee wants to remove the judicial branch, negate the Supreme Court. Yeah. Mike Huckabee, even though he never stands a chance of becoming the president, he would be, let me tell you who I think is the real fascist troll in waiting. It's Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio he's the only one I'm really afraid of on that stage, because he is politically savvy enough to win power. He's soulless enough to let anything go so long as he can win power. And he's convincing enough to carry a lot of smart people with him. Marco Rubio is the one up there who could forward this cultural fascism even further, who could push us further to the right, because he has no center. He has no political philosophy. He doesn't even care about conservatism. Conservatism is just the platform to carry him into power. So I'm not as worried about Mike Huckabee, because he's not politically savvy enough to actually win. He's going to be off the stage really soon. I'm not really worried about Ted Cruz, because he's not politically savvy enough to win. The smart version of Ted Cruz is Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is savvy enough to win, and I think that is the most dangerous notion for America. Not afraid of Trump. Not afraid of Trump one bit, because Trump doesn't have a clue. That could be a good thing, and that could be a bad thing. I honestly still don't think Trump is going to win. But we're talking about that. Let me see. One more thing. TV show 1022. I'll tell you what. One more thing. Yeah. I think, ladies and gentlemen, that's my overtime. Huh. You guys have a good night. I'm going to go tend to my crying son. And Miss Gracie, in honor of you, I am going. Hang on. I have a new question. What are you thinking about the train wreck that is Jeb Bush's campaign? Yeah, Patrick McNeil. Trump is a moderate Republican. He is, and Omnimorta mentioned that. All right. Yes, thank you. Trump's absurdity. If Trump got the nomination and Trump continued to play this stupid role that he's playing now, he's going to split the party. So that's going to absolutely be best for us. The same thing we're all thinking, Kevin. Do I have a laugh on here? I don't think I have a laugh. But what do I think about Jeb Bush? I think Jeb is, I'm glad he's as incompetent as he is. Let me say that I am grateful that Jeb Bush is as incompetent as he is, because the absolute last thing we need, it's bad enough we had John Adams and then John Quincy Adams. And then, a couple hundred, 150, 200 years later, we had George H.W. Bush and then George W. Bush. Do we really need to add another Bush? I don't think we need to add another Clinton either, but damn it, we already had 2 Bushes. So I am eternally grateful to Jeb Bush for being incompetent, because the last thing we need was a true dynasty in America. So I have nothing other to say about his failure than thank you, Jeb. Thank you. I applaud you for being incompetent. Thanks, Mashed Potatoes. Glad to have you on board. Everyone subscribe. Everyone tell someone else to subscribe. You guys are the core group. Those of you listening on the podcast, you guys are the core group. Help me get to 5,000 subscribers before my year anniversary, which is in February. So I need like 1,400 people on YouTube, 1,200 on Spreaker to get to 5,000. So help me get to that before my first year anniversary, and I will see you guys later. I'm going for real this time. I'll leave you with, I don't know. What am I going to leave you with? Oh, I'll leave you with this.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?